The World Series is set. It opens tomorrow. Los Angeles Dodgers, Tampa Bay Rays. Let's go out to Gregg, Zaun, our good friend Zauni. And I said off the start, Zauni, I hope you don't mind us going to the well so often out here, but you got a lot of fans in Western Canada. They want to hear your thoughts on the World Series. How you doing today, brother, by the way?
Doing well. It's pretty amazing with the expanded playoff format how the two best teams end up in the World Series.
Yeah.
I'm talking to my old pal Jamie Campbell today, and he said it best, and I'm just regurgitating what he said. Obviously, me being from LA, I'm ecstatic about the Dodgers coming back and finding their way to the series. It was pretty amazing baseball by the Blue Crew out there in Texas, but yeah, excited to see it. You got an interesting matchup in the fact that Tampa is they are heavy analytics. They are massively dependent on it. They do some unorthodox things, in my opinion, but they always seem to have some sort of a numeric justification for what they're trying to do. It's not always agreeable to me, but it definitely seems to have worked for them.
Well, let me just back up for a second. I was selfishly hoping for a Houston-LA World Series for obvious reasons, the storylines. Were you in any way, or do you hate the Astros, your former team, for what they did? Are you one of those guys?
Nope, I'm not even. In fact, I'm the polar opposite. I think everybody needs to just relax and get over it, because if they think that electronic sign stealing's not still going on, they're crazy. I've said it a number of times. When I was playing for the Jays, Boston and New York were all using dedicated cameras to steal signs. You know what? I say it all the time with regards to sign stealing. If sign stealing was a bad thing, you'd only need to put down one finger. You wouldn't need to tell them use multiple signs ever. And it's kind of hypocritical to look at the game of baseball and paint it with this brush. Oh, electronics, metrics, data, technology, all totally acceptable as long as you use it the way we want you to use it. Sign stealing is not illegal, but using a television camera to do it is wrong. Hiring somebody that's really, really smart that can create an algorithm to determine what a pitcher's tendencies, they use technology all over the place. Computer programs to figure out who's going to swing the bat in what circumstance, who's going to throw a slider in this count with this amount of guys on base. They're hypocrites. They think that, it's not okay to use technology this way, but it's totally okay to use it every other way. I mean, you can't get away from technology in the game of baseball. So I think they're all hypocrites, to be honest with you. The Astros deserve to be punished a little bit because they did technically break a rule, but that's like going back and saying, we want to punish a whole bunch of guys for doing steroids when they weren't illegal until 2003. Let's go back and punish the guys that were allegedly on the juice in 2000 just because we don't like it, because we want to have something to complain about to justify their success over us. They're all a bunch of whiners, in my opinion.
I'm so glad to hear somebody agree with me, because I thought I was a lone voice. I'm like, the Astros used technology. They were ahead of the curve, and now you're all mad at them because they beat you because you weren't quick enough. And then with the steroid issue, everybody knew what was going on too. Commissioner looked the other way. It's a topic, obviously, for another time. But, Zauni, I knew you and I are always on the same wavelength, so thank you for that. Now, I kind of want Tampa to win because they did knock out the Blue Jays, and you always want the team that beat you to win it all because you don't look so bad. But on the flip side, the Dodgers, maybe it's their time. Your take on the World Series. Is Tampa not the better team?
No, they're not. They're not the better team. The Dodgers, on paper, in my opinion, are the better team. But that makes certain assumptions. You're assuming that Clayton Kershaw is regular season Kershaw. He's choked every postseason in some way, shape, or form. He's never delivered start to finish that career-defining postseason. And without a World Series ring, with going to the World Series 3 or 4 years, if he doesn't win one, it almost taints his legacy to some degree, because the big guys find a way to win the big games, and he hasn't been able to do it. And I have a huge amount of respect for what he's been able to accomplish in the game. But without that World Series win, it takes a little bit of the shine off of a pretty remarkable career.
You're buddies with Kershaw, are you not? Didn't I hear you say that somewhere along the line?
I'm not unfriendly. I wouldn't say we're friends. We don't exchange Christmas cards or anything. And the only time I ever faced him, he drilled me. So no, but I have a huge amount of respect for him. I love the guy. I like the way he competes. He's got great stuff, obviously. A tremendous human being, a shining beacon of an example of what kids should be looking up to. But as a lifelong Dodgers fan, he frustrates me. He absolutely frustrates me. I am going to be angry with him until he finally breaks through and wins one for the Dodgers.
But that's my point a little bit, that you know him well enough. Like, what's the deal with his back spasms? It seems like going to the park every day, the Dodgers don't know if he's going to be able to go that night. Like, how serious is his back issues? And how does that relate to the World Series?
You know what? Who knows? I mean, I've had back problems too, and they're debilitating. You talk about when your back's out, you're having spasms. You're just dead tired at the end of the day from fighting, battling. It's hard to do anything when your spinal alignment is messed up. And who knows whether it's nerves, whether it's stress, maybe it's the colder temperatures. I don't know. I never have been able to put my finger on my own problems with back issues, periodically throughout my life. You're like, all of a sudden, like how? Like yesterday I was fine. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I just happened to bend or stretch a certain way, and a seemingly, healthy professional athlete is now, totally debilitated because one little bone is out of place, or, the hydration level was off. It's almost impossible to pinpoint, to be honest with you. As I said, some guys just find a way to step up. You look at a guy like John Lackey over the course of his postseason career. Obviously not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but when you look at what he was able to accomplish when he was in the postseason, that guy's a warrior, an absolute beast. And certain guys show up. Certain guys show up and certain guys don't. Certainly there's a lot of pressure on Clayton to perform. Number one starter or whatever, but one could argue that Walker Buehler is probably their number one right now. And he's done a pretty good job. But that club, as good as they are on paper, if they don't win it all, it's going to be a huge disappointment for the LA fan base.
Well, you mentioned being a lifelong Dodgers fan. What's your confidence level? Because let's be honest, where do you rank the pitching staffs? Rays versus Dodgers. I got to think you're checking the Rays, no?
Yeah, I do check it, but that Dodgers offense is pretty amazing. The old adage is good pitching always shuts down good hitting. But when you look at the way the balls are flying out of the yard, how far they're going, the balls are juiced, but man, there's some pretty darn good offensive players. And when they add a guy like Mookie Betts to that group, that's definitely a game changer. Look at how huge that guy came up both sides of the ball for that club there in the LCS. Robbed a couple of home runs, continues to anchor the offense at the top of the order. He's a table setter. He's a total difference maker, worth every cent they paid him. And man, I like the Dodgers' chances. I just don't see I don't see it being a short series. I think it's going to be a lengthy one. And whoever pitches best is going to win this. Obviously, whoever pitches best, and they both have a great chance to do so. Kershaw could show up. Buehler's awesome. I mean, just absolute gas. These guys throw so darn hard now. Everybody's throwing 95 to 100. It's unbelievable. And then you bring in, Carrot Top, they're just throwing absolute missiles, like triple-digit missiles. I mean, how do you do that? I don't know what they're feeding these kids.
Well, and by the way, speaking of the ball flying out of the yard, it did in Game 7 last night for the Dodgers, and there was a minimal amount of fans there, but enough to capture a little drama. Like, it seemed like it had as much drama as any big October ball game, Zani. And I just think about the fans, whether they're in the park or not. Like in '97 with you guys with the Marlins and the old park. And what was that? Joe Robbie, by the way? Where was that park in Miami?
Yeah, that's what they called it, Joe Robbie. Actually, no, it was Pro Player Stadium. It was originally Joe Robbie. The years I was there, they called it Pro Player Stadium.
Where was it?
And we had it was kind of in the hood, to be honest with you. It wasn't in a good spot. I think it was a little northeast of northwest of Palm or of Fort Lauderdale. I get my bearings. I just remember the highways on how to get there. It was kind of north of Miami, but Pembroke Pines-ish area, Dania type. It's just like kind of out there in the middle of the swamp. But not a good neighborhood. Nothing else to do around the ballpark. But man, we had 70 plus thousand people in the stadium for Game 7 of that World Series. It was pretty electric.
That's what I mean. The atmosphere. I was driving around Marlins Park, the new place, and I thought, if my car breaks down, I'm screwed. Like, speaking of sketchy areas. But anyways, the fact that there are some fans in the park helps. I mean, because I had an NFL guy on last week, Torrey Gurley, saying huge difference in the NFL with fans versus no fans in terms of hearing the calls, right, and stuff like that. How does it affect baseball this time of year, in your opinion?
Oh, it's got to be huge. Any kind of adrenaline boost you get from a fan base in the ballpark present is monstrous. I mean, these guys have been playing in empty stadiums all year long, and I can't even imagine how difficult it must be to get yourself ready to go every day. Like, oh, okay, nobody's there. I mean, no doubt about it. I fed off the energy of the crowd for years. Loved it. It was, you're a performer. When you're an athlete, you're a performer. Who are you performing for? It's like lights, cameras on. Go out there and do your thing. And there's a lot of guys who, are awful in practice. And I can imagine that's what it must have felt like all year long, kind of like a scrimmage with no fans in the stands. That had to be absolutely awful experience to deal with as a guy that's used to playing in front of 35, 40,000 people to be playing in front of no one. I can't imagine it would be too easy to get up some days to play ball.
That's what I mean. Just last night with just whatever it was, 7,000, 8,000 made a huge difference. It looked like in the Dodgers and their emotion. Well, Zaun, you called it. You said LA. I don't think you said Tampa was going to make it this far, but kudos for that, and enjoy the World Series, and maybe we can bring you on for a wrap when it's all over. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be watching tomorrow. That's for sure. All right, appreciate the time, brother. My best to the family. Yeah. Gregg Zaun joining us. Gregg Zaun joining us from Toronto, World Series champion, Blue Jays great, and longtime analyst.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.